Hey, how's it going guys? Welcome back to the channel. Crimson Panda here with another Mercenaries priority upgrade guide. Now in this video we're going to cover the remaining casters that we didn't cover in the last video. So let's get straight into it, see which abilities and equipments we want to prioritize when we upgrade these mercenaries. Okay, so the very first mercenary on our list today is Vol'jin. Now, Vol'jin is a very good mercenary, uses a lot of arcane damage and is used in PvP a lot. And that is all thanks to the equipment that I believe is the one that needs prioritizing, and that is the Band of Bursting Novas. So I'm sure everybody has seen that in PvP you have beasts and dragons die, and then once they die he gains from a battle cry +3 arcane damage for each one. So this is very good in an arcane bench, being able to use this to scale arcane damage and then use other mercenaries in order to benefit from that. So in my opinion, the Band of Bursting Novas will be the priority on the equipments, and then you have Celestial Breath, Starfire Blessing, and Among the Stars of his abilities. Now with this, all three of these abilities are very good, so it depends how you want to use him. It's probably the Starfire Blessing you're going to want to prioritize mainly, because this gives more arcane damage and then he deals damage every time he's hurt. So once he takes damage he deals 14 damage at base, but because of the Band of Bursting Novas it's going to scale him up. He's going to deal a lot more damage just from being hit, so this would be the priority one. And then I believe you would go for the Celestial Breath and then Among the Stars, and then the other two equipments after that, probably starting with the Bottle of Infinite Stars, because you might want to play this in a dragon build. But this mercenary is very flexible, so you can do it a different route. You could go for the Among the Stars being the one you want to do, and then have the Crystal where you can start off cooldown and use it as kind of like a decoy merc, doing a 1-speed swap so that they can't attack something you're trying to keep alive. But the main way Vol'jin is used is with Band of Bursting Novas and the Arcane package. So I would definitely go with equipment 3, and then ability 2, 1 and 3, and then the other 2 once you have enough coins to finish him up. Okay, so next up we have Lorewalker Cho. Now Lorewalker Cho is very good again as a mercenary, building archetypes based on Cho alone, all thanks to his priority equipment, which is the Stash of Scrolls. Your minions take 8 less damage. So 8 less damage might not sound like a lot, but it really is, especially when things are doing like 15. That's going to be, you know, you're taking half the damage less. So it's a very, very solid equipment, and probably the only one you do unless you put him in a really, really heavy anti build deck. So say you're targeting a specific mercenary like a Trigor for example, and you wanted to play this one where it reduces the attack of all characters by 20, the priority would be the Stash of Scrolls. As of the ability, you want Patience first of all. Patience is going to upgrade all of your other units that haven't acted yet. So if you're using a summon build, 9 times out of 10 they're slower than 5 speed, so this is going to buff those mercenaries or those minions depending on the speed that you're using. And then you'll want to go for knowledge after that, getting this up so that you can get your summons as big as they can. So the 25-1, you got the rush guy, which is 15-15. If he gets a kill, goes to 25-25, and the better ones, which are the 2 monkeys, which go to 15-15, and obviously scales more for each monkey you already have. So it's definitely the Stash of Scrolls with this one. Patience and knowledge, you can kind of do those at the same time. There's not really a priority on maxing one and then maxing the other. You can kind of just bounce between the two, and then wisdom last. And then as of the equipment, after you've done the abilities, then you go for Cho's Family Heirloom and then the heart, because this one just isn't very good. Okay, so next up we have Maestra. Now Maestra is insane, sees a lot of PvP play, and even though she might be flexible with the different equipments, being able to do different stuff from the bench, the main one and the one that is always used is the Mask of Mimicry. After a friendly merc attack, swap this merc and use Shifting Strike 5 immediately. Now Shifting Strike is going to gain 7 attack and attack enemies across from it. That will cleave enemies if there are more minions on your side or their side, and you gain roll advantage first, which is just nuts. You're always going to combo this out because she's coming off the bench, so you always gain roll advantage. So the ones you're going to focus on is Mask of Mimicry, and then Shifting Strike, and then you're going to go for Dirty Tricks and Sudden Betrayal in that order, and then the other 2 equipments once you have the coins for them to then upgrade and max her out. Okay, so next up is Millhouse, and Millhouse doesn't see a great deal of PvP play. He's in the Arcane build with Vol'jin, but it isn't the main standalone mercenary in that comp. You're probably going to be using Millhouse for a lot of your early PvE bounty grinding. So if you was doing it for that, you would probably want to just upgrade your abilities as and when you need to, going up against specific bounty bosses. So for example, if you need to be shooting big damage with the missiles, then you would obviously upgrade this. But if you're going to the lower farming stuff and you just want to do quick farming, then the Arcane Explosion, being able to deal quite a lot of damage to quite a lot of minions, or all of the minions, is probably the best one to go for. Now, the Arcane Explosion is what you're going for in PvP. You're going to want to be doing a very fast, high damaged AoE and being able to remove stealth from some like Valera comps in the late game. The Arcane Powder is the best equipment as well, having your Arcane Explosion deal more damage, and that's what makes them lose the stealth. The Arcane Rod, Arcane Bolt dealing 4 but has 1 more cooldown, isn't very good. It's 7 arcane damage, sounds good, but it doesn't do a lot, especially at a 6 speed. And then the greater ones always target the low health enemy. Yes, in theory these are always good, being able to target the lowest health mercenary, but sometimes you want the random effect, so you can hit stealth stuff and you can maybe get 1 lucky shot and not wasting, say, 2 missiles on something that maybe has 21 health. So that's probably how you would upgrade Millhouse. You would go for the Arcane Powder, the Arcane Explosion, then the other 2 abilities in like together, I would say, and then the other 2 equipments as and when you have the coins for them. Okay, so next up we have Morgl the Oracle. Now, he is only used in, obviously, Murloc builds. You can use him in nature, but he's not really used in nature very much. He is primarily in PvP used in Murloc builds, and that is thanks to the Drowsing Rod. Passive, after one of your Murlocs takes 20 or more damage at once, restore 8 health to it. So this can bring them back from the dead if they take more than 20 and it's a fatal blow. They won't die. This will restore the 8 health immediately, bringing them back or keeping them alive so that you can still do their ability. So this is a very, very strong equipment and will be the one you prioritize because the other 2 are not used. Your Murloc missiles will be the first ability you want to upgrade, because it gives your Murloc's health, it deals damage, it's nature, so you can combo it with other stuff, and a 4 speed is very good, being able to buff Murlocs and deal damage. So that's the one you want to go for. And then I guess you will go for the Fishy Barrage and then the Healing Wave in that order. You are playing a Murloc build, so sometimes this does come in handy if that Murloc build you're playing is a summon build. And the Healing Wave is healing your Murlocs for 10 health, which is great, and 15 to a character, but you're already healing with this once you take damage, so this is not really a priority. It is still good and there are times you want to use it, but you're going to be healing for 6 with this one anyway, so it's just better to upgrade the Murloc missiles, then Fishy, then Healing Wave, and prioritizing the Rod being your first equipment as well, and then the other 2 once you have the rest of those maxed. Okay, next up we have Natalie Selene. Now, Natalie was used a lot in PvP a little while ago, thanks to the massive hit she can do with Shadow. So being able to equip the Eye of the Storm to be able to deal 4 more damage. This pushes this to 20 damage instead of 14. Because you always have this on turn 1. So this is going to be dealing 40 damage to a red, which was absolutely huge versus Trigors and Localos. But now we have a new comp, the Arcane one, which hits even harder than that. So Natalie isn't used very much. If you did want to use her, that would be the way to go. You would either prioritize the Eye of the Shadow to be able to focus down big reds, or you would focus on the Splinter in order to have your AoE off cooldown, just in case you wanted to do a 6-speed Shadow AoE with, say, Vol'jin making that a 3-speed. So that is definitely where you would want to go with that. Shadow Beam is obviously the only ability you can use turn 1, really, because 2-speed heal isn't going to help you on the first turn. So you would prioritize, depending on where you wanted to go with this mercenary yourself, you would either go Eye of Shadow and Shadow Beam being your priorities, or you would go for the Splinter and the Athena as the other one. So Athema, that's a difficult word to say. It's a very fun mercenary to play because of the heal and the damage output it can do, but this is one of the OG mercenaries, which they've just brought out obviously a lot stronger ones now in the future. So as far as it goes, either go Eye of Shadow or Splinter as your first equipment, Shadow Beam, then the Athenas, and then the Light Beam last, and obviously the equipment last as well after you have enough coins for it. Okay, so next up we have Neeru Fireblade. Now, Neeru is one of the newest mercenaries that we've got other than Rattlegore. This was from the big demon drop, and unfortunately demons aren't that great at the moment, which is why I haven't focused down getting this demon armor on PvE. I just really can't be bothered because I'm not going to be using this equipment anyway. It's not the better one. The best equipment and the one you're going to upgrade first is the Wild Imps have Death Rattle, so the Combusting Imps. This is by far the best equipment, so definitely focus that down. And then as far as the abilities go, you're probably going to want to go with Command Demon first because it's the only one you can use straight away. Then you go for Burning Blade Portals because at the end of your turn you fill up with Imps, which are going to shoot your opponent for fell damage, and when they die they're also going to deal more fell damage. So it has a lot of potential, this character, especially with summoning the Imps. It helps for Sylvanas in the late game if you manage to pull off getting the Imps. So it's definitely a fun character to use, but unfortunately the demons aren't yet strong enough to be able to beat what's in the meta. There are a few specific builds which you probably can make it work, but it's very difficult to be consistent with this mercenary. So if you do have it and you do want to play it, then definitely go for Combustion Imps, then go Command Demons, Burning Blade, then go Implosion, and then the other two equipments once you unlock them for a start, and then, you know, just upgrade those once you have the spare coins for it. Next up we have Nemsy. Nemsy is one of the new mercenaries again. This is by far one of the strongest mercenaries in the game, and no surprise it being a blue as well. The reason it's so strong is because of Bogmoss. So Bogmoss, Boggy gains adjacent characters take 7 less damage. So you're going to be summoning in a Boggy off the Battle Cry with 10 attack and 25 health and taunt. You're going to put that in between your priority minions you want to protect. Obviously Nemsy is going to be one of them because it summons next to her, and then whatever else you're trying to protect, like a Valera, a Leroy, a Localar, anything that you kind of don't want to take too much damage. And plus you have an additional minion as well, which is great for Sylvanas being in the death pool. Plus Boggy just keeps coming back with the help of Boggy Blast. So a very, very solid mercenary to be able to protect the rest of your units. The way you want to go with prioritization is you want to go for Bogmoss first of all. This is going to be probably the only equipment you're going to be using straight away. So definitely upgrade that one all the time. And then you're going to want to kind of go Boggy Blast, then you go Bogganamamic, because this is going to buff your Boggy and possibly another character depending on where you're targeting it. And then you go for the Fungus after, because even though this is good, every time a character takes damage or survives damage, it can deal 18 damage to a random enemy. It's very good, but probably the one you're going to want to focus on last. And then after you've got those upgraded, then start going between the other two equipments after that with those spare coins you have. Okay, so next up we have N'Zoth. Now N'Zoth is part of the Old Gods package. Now the Old Gods are a very, very strong comp. If you have all of the Old Gods and you're able to build that comp, then it is super strong. And N'Zoth is obviously bringing his own benefits to that team. So the idea here is we're going to prioritize the Eternal Torment. This is going to deal 4 damage or 4 shadow damage to all enemies at the start of the turn. Very good in popping off some of those really low health units at the start of the game before they even act. And you're able to get this scaled with other stuff like Vol'jin and stuff. It's just very good. It helps with a monkey comp. This is the main thing for a monkey comp. If you're going to want to kill off a load of units and you have a monkey up that gives plus 20 spell damage to all your units, then this does like 70 damage before your opponent even acts. Very hard to pull it off, but once you do pull it off, it just wipes the board and they concede. So that is why the Eternal Torment is the prioritizing equipment. It's so much better than the other two. The other two don't ever really get used. And as far as the equipments, they are all very good. So the Spawn of N'Zoth, summoning this is going to buff your Cthulhu on your bench. Plus it has immune and charge, so it's punching into something that you actually get to choose now. It's not random. The Gift of N'Zoth goes against all of those summon comps that you're going to up against. You can steal Boggies, you can steal Vipers, you can steal other N'Zoth summons after they've already got one out. So very good Gift of N'Zoth ability. And then Corrupted is very good as well, destroying your minion and dealing equal to its attack to all enemies and restoring 10 health to this merc. Very solid once you have a couple of units up, especially if those units are buffed and you're playing this in a buff build. So N'Zoth, very, very good, sees tons of play, especially in the old god meta and even in the monkey comps. So I would just go Eternal Torment being your priority equipment, and then go in order with the abilities. So go Spawn, Gift, and then the Corrupted in that order. You can do them all together if you want. You're going to benefit from all of them at some point. So definitely upgrade this unit if you do have him. Okay, so next up we have Onyxia. Now, Onyxia unfortunately doesn't see a great deal of PvP play, especially when all of the abilities are really, really fun and unique. The way she is used is by kind of pairing up with a anti-taunt build. So you want to kind of punch through a taunt, but you don't want to hit the taunt. This is what this is being used for, to just focus on those reds. So attack an enemy, and if they have taunt first, you gain 6 attack, which is great, and then it blocks the taunt on them, which this then obviously scales up, punches, and Trigel gets to do their bits. So this is the only way this is being used at the moment, when it will be really nice to be able to do it in a heal fire comp. I may actually have to revisit this mercenary and try some different comps with her out myself, because I really like the clean up the nest, dealing 15 damage to all enemies. Obviously this being scaled by healing, which you can obviously buff the healing, or once they take too much damage with like a Chi-Ji, something like that. Deathblow summoning whelps, which is cool. And then once a dragon dies, dealing 7 damage to all enemies. It just has a lot of potential, but unfortunately doesn't see that sort of gameplay. But I'm going to try and revisit it, so hopefully that will change. So but at the moment, the way it stands, the way you want to upgrade this mercenary for the PvP meta, if you're going to use it, is you're going to want to focus on Razor Sharp Claws, giving your first ability an additional 8 attack. This is obviously going to give 14 attack, pushing you to 25, blocking taunt, and hit and summon for 50 damage, especially if it's a red, which is huge damage. So you're going to want to focus on that one first as the equipment, and then as of the abilities, you want to go for ability 1, then 2, and then 3. Go in that order. The other 2 aren't being used unless you do it in a very weird dragon comp like I just suggested, but that's the way it's kind of being played out at the minute. Is equipment 1 and ability 1 are the only 2 things being used. The equipments, I would go for the Broodmother Rage after you've upgraded all the abilities and Razor Sharp Claws, and then go for the Deeper Breath, dealing more healing more health, but being slower last once you have those spare coins for it. Next up we have Patches the Pirate. Now Patches is a good mercenary. Unfortunately it doesn't see a great deal of PvP. Once again, there are comps that do utilize him, especially the pirate bench comp that you may have come across on ladder, but the way this is being used in that comp is filling up the board with pirates and scaling those pirates to be able to trigger a Mr. Smite combo in the late game. So you're going to be using Mr. Smite, Cornelius, and Leroy, and this is going to II Captain to fill your board up, swing into stuff, which is then going to make Mr. Smite scale and swing into stuff as well, taking less damage from a Cornelius or gaining stats from like a Rakara. So that's the way Patches is being used. There isn't actually a full pirate comp just yet where you can use Edwin and be able to summon it at the start and deal damage. It's just not a comp that is usable. So the way you'd want to upgrade this for PvP at the moment, the way that I've seen and the way that I've played, is go for Arms Locker, because scaling pirates is great. Once they attack, all of the pirates attack, so that's just great. And then filling up the board is probably the best ability, and then go for the eye. Go for the middle II Captain, and then go for Maestra, II Matey, and then go for the crew guns, because you always want to get the abilities upgraded, because you never know when you're going to need them. And then you go for the other equipments once you have enough coins for them, depending on what you want to use them for. If you want to use them as a mercenary that flies off the bench and gains 3 attack and attacks a random enemy, then great, go for Now I'm in Charge after. Obviously the Arms Locker still being the best one. And then go for Hook Crew, where the II Captain gains an additional 5 attack, and they are immune when they attack, which sounds good, and it's good with other mercenaries, but unfortunately there's a better way to play Patches, and it is with the Smite combo on the bench. So that's how you would go with this one. Next up we have Prophet Velen. Now Prophet Velen is not a PvP mercenary. It hasn't been used in PvP since the beginning of mercenaries. You want to use this mainly for your holy team for PvE. The reason being is you want to use Velen's Blessing and Anduin's Holy Nova to cast twice to keep your units alive and dealing a lot of damage as well. That is how you're going to be using Velen. That does a huge amount of AoE, being able to cast the next Holy ability twice. It doesn't work in PvP because people will either just kill Velen too fast or they will kill Anduin too fast and you can never get it off. But in PvP, in PvE, that is the way you want to go. You want to prioritize the Tomb of Inspiration. The Holy Blast restores 5 more health to all characters. That is probably the better one. Just being able to heal up your characters with a single shot is probably better than the other two. The restore 40 health to all your characters on a death rattle could be good. If you are using it just for PvE like you should be, then definitely go for Potion of Light. It doesn't matter which one. If you have them both unlocked, then go for either one. If you only have one specific one unlocked, I'm not sure which way you have to unlock these equipments, but definitely go for the one that is obviously unlocked. And if they're both unlocked, then you can kind of choose which one. I would rather go for the Holy Blast, restoring 5 more to characters, because you're not always going to get that death rattle off before the other units die. So definitely go for the Tomb of Inspiration in my opinion. Then you go for Velen's Blessing first, even though Holy Blast is the only ability you can use. This is what's going to enable your combo, and then you go for Holy Blast and then Splitting Light and then the other equipments once you have enough coins for them. Okay, so next up we have Queen Azshara. Now Queen Azshara is a great mercenary, does see some PvP play in a shadow build, not necessarily a Naga build. It's got the Naga tribe there, but it isn't used in Nagas. It's used in a shadow build because of this ability here that I cannot pronounce. It's whenever you cast a shadow ability, restore 6 health to your characters. Once again, 6 health doesn't seem like a lot, like we did with the Malfurion I covered in a previous video. 6 health is huge, especially to all of your characters, just for using an ability you're going to use anyway. This is the only equipment you're going to use with this at the moment. The other two are not being used. Gain +1/+3 for each other friendly Naga in play or in your bench isn't being used. It's not enough scaling even maxed out. That's why I've not touched it yet. And the other one, the Queen Scepters, the first time a merc dies, still 6 health, is being used in specific comps, but usually there's a lot of AoE happening or random shots, which is just going to kill the units. Once this comes back, it's just going to get hit again, and it's not as good as the healing up 6, which is surprising, but that is the way it is on in game. As of the abilities, you'll probably want to go focus with the AoE first of all. This goes to a 0 speed thanks to Vol'jin, and if any of them are 0 speed, this is just going to scale in damage the further away the ability is used. So it gets slowed by 2 more speed. So say it's a 0 speed and they use a 0 speed, this will then go to 2 speed, and then if they have another 0 speed, this will go to 4 speed, and it just increases damage based on the speed it is. So it will deal 10, but then if it goes to 10 speed, it will deal an extra 10 damage plus whatever scaling you're doing with your other units. Then you go for Shifting Tides. This just deals a huge amount of damage. Damage is increased for each spell school you've cast this game. This is usually a bench mercenary, and even though it's used in mainly a shadow comp, there will be times where you use other spell schools, like this being an arcane for example. You may have an arcane package at the start of the build, or nature with Elise, you never know. So this will scale and it is a good ability. And then finally you would go for the Mage Paramount last. It's good to gain the spell damage, especially at a 0 speed, and get spell resistance, but you are trying to use this mercenary for heals and damage output, not really scaling, wasting a turn giving it spell damage, because there will be other units that you can do that with. So that's the way you go with this. You go equipment 1 and you go ability 3, 1 and 2, and then the other 2 equipments after, being this one prioritized more than the Tidestone. So that's how you do this one. Okay, so Reno Jackson. Reno is a strong mercenary, sees a lot of PvP play thanks to the scaling of Arcane in the late game. So Reno has 2 different ways you can play him. So you can either play him from a bench using the Dazzling Flexing to do AoE to all mercenaries with a lot of Arcane damage, or you could play him in the opener, forcing things to attack Reno at a 2 speed thanks to the Dazzling Flexing being 0 cooldown, and having the death rattle on. So cast one of Reno's random death rattle loots is really strong. It can root your opponent, it can deal AoE damage, it can heal your units. So having this on a death rattle is great, because once Reno dies, your units usually have taken damage and the AoE will sometimes kill things. So it's a very, very flexible mercenary to use, Reno. So depending on where you want to play him, if you want to play him in an opener, then I suggest prioritizing the treasure inspector. This is going to be probably the one you would want to focus on no matter what, being the equipment. And then you're going to focus on dazzling first of all, then you're going to focus on that's my treasure, because you do want to heal Reno up sometimes, and then you go for the random Gatling wand, which is going to just deal 11 damage to a random enemy and gain +3 each time Reno takes 20 damage. You don't really notice that scaling, so this one is just because it hits a random target, it's a lot worse than the dazzling. Even though it does a lot more damage than it, you kind of want units to attack into Reno so he loses health, so that you can then use my treasure and stuff like that. Plus you want the death rattle to pop at specific times. But if you're going to want to use him as the arcane, you still want to prioritize dazzling being the ability you want to prioritize, but you're going to want the explorer's hat where you deal 10 damage plus AoE. So with the arcane, it's going to go up to like 40 odd damage to everything, which is great being on the bench. And that's when Gatling actually does shine, because you hit a random unit for a lot of damage, because this one isn't an arcane, so it won't scale, but the Gatling does scale from that. So in my opinion, I would go for treasure first, dazzling, then that's my treasure ability, then Gatling ability, and then you go for this equipment after that, the explorer's hat, and then you go for we're going to be rich, because you're not really needing to heal your other explorers in this meta, or at the moment in any comps that I've seen. So definitely go with that kind of way with upgrading Reno. Okay, so next up we have Rogers. Now, Sky Admiral Rogers is a fantastic mercenary. Doesn't see as much PvP play as I think she probably should, because the flexibility of this unit is very good, and she can make combos happen really, really fast. So the way you want to upgrade this one is, first you want to go for the Swash Sash. This is going to give your Skyguard an additional 5 attack. This is by far the best equipment. The other two do not get used, so don't upgrade them until the end. The Skyguard, this is one of the only blue units that can attack and scale at the same time, so gaining 10 attack and attacking an enemy, not a random enemy, which is really important. And if it's a pirate, gain immune while attacking, that doesn't usually get used, that part, but just gaining 10 attack on a blue unit and punching into something. So if you're hitting a red unit, you're dealing 44 with an attack, plus you get to keep the attack for the next turn, so it's not like a one-time buff. It's very good, very strong at 5 speed, so that is what you're going to want to prioritize first of all. Then you want to go for Master Technician. This is going to enable combos, 2 speed, deal 12 damage to an enemy or restore 12 health to an ally. It goes next, so you are dealing 12 damage to, let's say you're healing up a unit, that unit gets to go next no matter what. So if it's a 10 speed ability you're trying to queue up, you're going to be using it basically at 2 speed, because you're going to target that, it's going to go next no matter what. It enables a lot of combos. Also, you can use it as a snipe tool. If there's a unit, for example a red, you can deal 24 damage at 2 speed, which is very good to just kill off something before it acts anyway. So very flexible with that ability. And then fiery position, deal 25 damage to all enemies that have already acted. Very, very strong, dealing 50 damage to those fast units, especially those red fast units, Trigors, Localars, anything that is 6 speed or less. Basically a 5 speed or less, because you're going to end up flipping a coin for the 6 speed, but dealing AoE damage for them going first is really good, especially if this can survive any of that damage. So that's the way you actually want to upgrade it as well, in that exact order. You go Swash Sash as the equipment, Skyguard for the ability, then the Technician, and then the firing position, and then you do the other 2 equipments once you have spare coins after you've upgraded the other 4 things. Okay, next up we have Tamsin. Now Tamsin is a bad mercenary. She doesn't see any play at all in PvP or PvE. She did, using the last rites, being able to death rattle summon a Void Guard with Taunt. It was seen in the early stages of Mercenaries, and having the Veil of Shadow gain +5 shadow damage and enemies can't heal was pretty good, gaining the shadow damage. But unfortunately there is tons more shadow stuff you want to run instead of her, so she doesn't really see play. The way you want to upgrade this, I guess you would go for the Shadow Ruins or the Last Rites. Any of those two are fine to start upgrading first. Then you go for the Shadow Bolt first of all, because it's the only ability you can use straight away, and then you go for Veil of Shadows, then you go for the other Void Consumer, or one of the other equipments depending on which one you didn't do, because this Void Consumer is just bad. You're not really going to be scaling it very much. Your shadow abilities are going to be used first, so this isn't going to come out. And if this was a battle cry, then it will be 10 times better, but unfortunately you have to use the ability, waste a turn, and then it probably dies before you can start scaling it anyway. So Void Consumer is bad and Void Stone is bad, so you want to go for any of those equipments and then those two abilities first, and then those two absolutely last. Okay, so next up we have Varden. Now Varden is insane, so insane in fact that he is one of the only mercenaries that have been nerfed in the game, other than Trigor, who actually got not better, but he was buffed. Trigor was buffed and it got to the point where he now needs a nerf, but Varden is the only mercenary that got nerfed. He had Flurry, which targeted all of the units instead of just shooting 3 missiles randomly. So this kind of was a buff and a nerf at the same time, because you can target the same random enemy with the Flurry now, which means you could slow one unit down by 6 speed, or you can slow 2 things down, 1 by 2 speed, 1 by 4 speed, or you can slow all of them down depending on where the random hits go. It's very good now, and it was good before slowing everything down by 2, so it's very weird to see that it's gone like random that way. But this is always used in a frost build, and the reason being is you have the Death Chilling Amulet here. So Death Rattle will deal 14 damage to all enemies and freeze a random enemy. So this gets scaled thanks to Localar. So if this dies, you're going to be doing a lot more Death Rattle damage. Plus Localar is going to scale the Flurry here. So this is going to be dealing a lot more than 7 to each unit because of Localar having that if they go quicker. You have a Cold Snap, which you can time and freeze all the enemies. This can get speeded up as well with other specific comps. You can make it a permanent freeze with a Valera build, which is insane. You also have the Ice Lamps, which isn't used very often, but there are specific times you do want to just stop a unit from doing anything, and that will actually win you games sometimes. And then you also have the ability to use Band of Frost, which is after a character is frozen, gain frost damage, which does see play, but not as much as the Death Rattle Chilling Amulet. So Varden is a very good mercenary, so you'd probably want to start with the Chilling Amulet first, then go Flurry, Cold Snap, then go Ice Lance, Band of Frost, and then the Potion of Ice last. Next up is Vol'jin. Vol'jin, once again, is another broken mercenary. If you're thinking of playing Shadow, the very first thing you put into Shadow is Vol'jin, and that is because of his broken equipment, the Ring of Haste. So this is the priority equipment to upgrade. This is going to be the only equipment that you ever want to use with him, because your Shadow abilities are 3 speed faster. That 3 speed is huge. You're able to speed up yourself as well. So Shadow Shock is going to be a 3 speed, deal 12 damage and slow them down. Your AoE is a 1 speed and a 2 speed, which is really easy to combo this off with a 2 speed, because you're going to be speeding most of the other Shadow stuff up to a 0 speed, because a lot of the Shadow stuff are quick anyway. So Vol'jin is definitely one of the broken mercenaries of the game. So you want to prioritize Ring of Haste first of all, and then you go Shadow Shock as the ability 1 to upgrade, then Curse of Weakness, and then Shadow Surge, and then the other 2 equipments once you have the coins to upgrade them. Next we have Xyrella. Now Xyrella is, again like Velen, a PvE mercenary, so you are going to be using this with Samuro in the early bounties because you get this for free. And the way you're going to want to do it is you want to upgrade Radiant Wand very first of all, giving Blinding Luminance deals 4 more damage and gives -4 more attack. That is going to help you get through a lot of the early bounties, because you're going to be using this 3 speed Blinding Luminance. You're going to deal 14 damage to an enemy, minus their attack by 12, and then Samuro is going to swing in after that with his 4 speed. Because it's already taken damage, he gets to attack again. He's going to take 0 retaliation damage because you're going to minus their attack by 12, and you're going to just start killing stuff off. So that is the way you're going to be using this mercenary, because there is no reason to use it in PvP because there's just better stuff. So this is only used if you have at the start of the game. Basically, once you get this for free and Sam for free, you're going to go back through easily leveling up your characters and easily upgrading with those coins you get at the end of each bounty. So you want to focus on those two first of all, then you go with flash healing because you are going to need to heal up sometimes, and then you go anointment after that, and then the other 2 equipments as and when you have the coins for them. You're just going to focus on equipment 1 and ability 1, and then that's going to get you through a lot of those early bounties. Okay, so next up we have Yogg. Now Yogg is once again another part of the Old God package, and this is one of the enablers for the Old God package because of the Awakening Roar. This is the priority equipment you're going to focus on. Battlecry Old God's abilities refreshed by 4. The abilities you're going to want to try and upgrade or speed up with the refreshing is obviously their 10 speed abilities, or their 10 cooldown abilities I should say. So this is going to already get them to almost half of what they need, and then as of the abilities, you're going to want to start with the Grace, because this is going to be dealing 15 to a character and restoring 15 to a character, swapping the abilities. This is in PvP is going to deny a lot of combos from things because you're going to slow them or swap their abilities. Sometimes this could work, or this could be bad for you. You can end up swapping something so it's quicker instead of slower, but you do deal 30 damage to red units, and it's a 2-speed deal 15, which can snipe stuff as well if this goes onto the bench for some reason. Morgl, very strong. Give a friendly character 5 attack this turn. They attack a random enemy. This is what's going to speed up some of your Old God stuff. This is going to chuck Yogg back into your build so that you can bring out a Maestra, because the Old Gods don't really attack other than that. So that is kind of the way you want to use that. So you definitely want to start upgrading this as well. If you're going to be using it in a full Old God comp, then definitely start on the Morgl, but the 2-speed is just good. You just want to get that damage up because it's going to be used as a snipe tool in the late game. And then Old Yogg is the last ability you want to upgrade, and the other 2 equipments you upgrade once you have the coins for them to max it out. Okay, and next up we have Zar'jira, the Sea Witch. Now this is the last mercenary on the list, and unfortunately it is a bad one. It doesn't see a great deal of play. It has been in some Naga comps, but it's not very good. The only way I could think of using this efficiently is having the passive Ring of Sluggishness. Now this is going to slow down all the passive shadow abilities, but unfortunately that does mean yours. And the very first ability that you use, and that you can only use on the first turn, is the Witch's Curse, which is Shadow. So this will be an 8-speed, deal 12 damage. If it has already acted, its attack is permanently halved, which it probably would have acted unless you're specifically targeting a shadow comp and they get slowed down even slower than you. So this is probably the only way I can think of using it efficiently, is against shadows, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. So this unit is pretty much useless at the minute. If you pack this, I would feel bad, but you can freeze a character. 2 cooldown, running this off the bench, having a 4-speed, freeze a character, but they're immune, so you can stop an attack, especially a combo. You could use it in that way. I haven't seen it personally being used like that. The summon just feels bad, has 10 attack for each frozen character. You're not freezing a lot in this game, especially in Mercenaries. There's other stuff that freezes a lot better, and you're not going to be using this to try and benefit from that. And the other equipments, Witch's Curse deals 5 more damage. Always good, I guess. Having a 4-speed deals 17 doesn't seem overwhelming. And then the Upstart Acolyte, passive plus 12 health. The first time a friendly character is frozen each turn, freeze a random enemy. Probably the best equipment as a staple. If you're not targeting shadow, then this would probably be the one you want to go for. So as far as upgrading this, it's basically what you want to use it for. So this would probably be the one you would want to start on personally. unless you are really struggling against Shadow and you want to absolutely try anything to slow them down, then go for this one. And then go in order with the abilities. You go Witch's Curse because it's the one you want to be using. Then you go Freezing Touch, and then you go for the Wave Thrasher last. And then you finish up on the other equipments if you want to max her, and if you have those spare coins to max her as well. Okay, so that is it for the Mercenaries PvP upgrading guides. There will obviously be more Mercenaries coming out in the future, and I will cover those in the priority video as well. Hopefully I'll try and bundle a load of Mercenaries together instead of just doing one video. Maybe I'll go through the Mercenaries upgrade guides in a comp that I'm using it in once I bring out a PvP video for a new Mercenary. But thank you for everybody that has showed support on this series. I hope it helps every new player that comes into Mercenaries. I hope being able to find the Mercenary you want to upgrade and not have to waste time and waste coins upgrading wrong abilities. I hope this helps you, and I hope to see all of you in the fighting pit. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I am going to be your face of Mercenaries, so hopefully you guys will subscribe and support the channel, with hopefully Mercenaries growing as a game mode. Another PvP video tomorrow, and I'll see you in the next one.